Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We finally reached the end of 2023, hell yeah. So in today's video, I'm going to be ranking all the 2023 movies I saw from worst to best. 2023 was an interesting year for movies. It was the year of the big blockbuster, the year of the box office flop, the year of the divisive movie. We had The Flash, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Barbie, the Super Mario Bros. Movie caused a divide between critics and audiences. Needless to say, I haven't seen every film that came out this year, and I haven't exactly seen every film that came out this year that I wanted to see, but I've seen most of them, so I'll obviously be ranking those. Obviously, there was so much stuff that came out this year, so there were some good movies and some bad movies, but I say in general, this was a consistently better year for movies than 2022, in my opinion. Like, there were more highs this year that were actually high for me. Like, my second favourite film of last year was Smile. You remember Smile, that horror film that came out last year? That was my second favourite film of last year. Obviously, Everything Everywhere All at Once was at number 2 on my ranking video for last year, but I shouldn't have included that in the video because I technically didn't watch it. I was in a really weird state when I watched it. I was tired, I fell asleep a few times. So I watched it, but I technically didn't see it, and I shouldn't have included it in the video. I haven't been able to rewatch it, or I haven't gotten around to rewatching it since I first watched it that time in 2022. And there are several movies that I've seen that came out last year, this year, that I prefer over Smile, so Smile isn't my second favourite film of 2022 anymore. But in general, I'd say this was a fairly good year for movies, but obviously it was a divisive one. I'm going to keep my thoughts on these movies brief. I've done reviews or quick reviews for most of them. Again, I'm going to keep my thoughts very brief because this video is going to be long enough. And obviously this list is just my opinion, and feel free to comment your 2023 list, your thoughts on 2023 movies, all that stuff in the comments below. Without further ado, let's begin with this ranking video. Oh, and one final thing I forgot to mention, I will be talking about these movies in spoiler-free fashion, and if I ever get into any spoilers, I will give a warning beforehand so you can skip forward 10 or 20 seconds or whatever you want to do if you haven't seen the movies already. So again, without further ado, let's begin with this ranking video. In last place is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Wow, what a shock. This is a horrible film, really bad acting, bad characters, bad effects. A mildly interesting setup is completely wasted for just the boring slasher movie formula of just kill compilation. It doesn't know what it's doing for its entire runtime pretty much. The best thing I can say about the kills is that they're very brutal and very gory, but they're not good, because kills that should be good, for example one involving the wheel of a car and a person's head, are done with bad effects and they just look laughable. And I get the fact that it was a low budget, but then don't try and do something that your budget is going to restrict you from doing if you can't find a way around the budgetary restrictions. This film is just so, and the thing is that this film, obviously it came out very early this year, and I watched it towards the end of the year, and until this point, there were some weak films, but no truly terrible ones in my opinion that I had seen. And I was just thinking, this year is going pretty well, and then I watched this movie, and I was like, it was going so well. It is rubbish. And number 31 is Meg to the Trench, one that I'm really unhappy about the fact that is this low on the list. I was really looking forward to this one. The trailers really made it look like it knew what it was doing, and the concept is the easiest thing to make a fun monster movie out of. And again, it really did look like that from the trailers. The last 20 or so minutes are fun. There are a couple of nice moments of gore for PG-13 level, I think, and a couple kind of fun moments and things like that. But overall, it's just insane how bad they managed to mess this up, when again, it seems to be the easiest thing to make a fun movie out of. And they managed to pull off, well, I say pull off the Jurassic World Dominion this year. They made what is, in my opinion, the Jurassic World Dominion of this year, where it wastes way too much time focusing on things that I don't care about and didn't pay to see, and that not just me, the audience doesn't care about and didn't pay to see. And number 30 is The Marvels. I wish this wasn't so low down on the list, but I have to be fair, this movie's insanely messy. A couple of fun things can't make up for the tonal shifts, a story so messy to the point where it's barely even a story, and the general feeling that they just put no effort into making a coherent or in general good movie. And I get the fact that the word messy is so commonly used. It's a word that people use so much when describing this movie. It's easy to see why. Honestly, it's insane, honestly. The Nun 2 up next, more dull, uninteresting, unbelievably forgettable horror stuff. I was excited for this one because of how much better than the original people were saying it was. What I wasn't expecting was a film with absolutely no redeeming value whatsoever, other than the fact that it's better than the first one. Obviously, I'm joking, but there is not that much good about this film, in my opinion. I really didn't like it whatsoever. It was insanely weak in my opinion. More weak horror stuff up next with Insidious The Door, which felt like a very low effort, low energy attempt at concluding the Insidious franchise, focusing in on characters last seen 10 years ago, and the movie doesn't feel like it cares, and as a result, I didn't care. Now, this movie is actually quite special to me, because it's actually the first horror movie I ever saw in a cinema. Whoa, I know, right guys, absolutely insane. There are movies with horror elements I'd seen in cinemas before this, but this was the first straight up horror movie I ever saw in a cinema, and it was great. The experience was really great. I got to feel what people have been feeling their whole lives. This is what horror movies were made for. I watched it with a packed audience. I could feel the audience's heart rate go up at each tense moment as we all sat there waiting for that jump scare moment. I didn't enjoy the movie nearly as much. Put a load of CGI, some good, some bad, some questionable decisions, and the word underwhelming into a blender, and you get Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Listen, Paul Rudd is as charming as ever. Kang is good in this, but this movie has so many issues. The idea of putting Ant-Man in the quantum realm, a place that is huge and has no real sense of scale, is a concept that just doesn't work. The whole point of Ant-Man is that he can go big or small, and that's like the fun of it. And so this movie doesn't have the sense of fun that the other Ant-Man movies at least slightly had. This movie's biggest failure, in my opinion, is the fact that it completely fails to be an epic beginning to the next era of the MCU like it was supposed to be. And number 26 is Shazam: Fury of the Gods, literally the most mid movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Literally, it's so unbelievably mediocre. It's not bad, but it is really, 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 really average, like below average pretty much, and it's so forgettable and generic, and it is literally superhero fatigue in a movie. Oh, sorry, superhero fatigue as a movie, which most of the superhero movies this year felt like. Which brings me neatly along to Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which is completely serviceable, but just more generic superhero stuff, and a completely unepic end to the DCEU. That's about it. We'll move on. At number 24 is Five Nights at Freddy's. Another thing I forgot to mention at the beginning. I've rewatched a few of these movies since I originally saw them and did my reviews on them, and if my score for them has changed, I'll mention it. Having not rewatched this movie since I originally saw it, I don't know why I gave it a 5.5 out of 10, to be honest. I would lower it to a 5. Maybe I gave it that extra 0.5 just because of the production and how good it is, but I think that is just, like, that's what makes the 5. Honestly, the production of this is really good. Like, the animatronics, the way it looks, the way they have so accurately kind of recreated the aesthetic in general, of the games into movie form is good. I think that is all really well done. The movie it's not a good film. It has a fairly unfocused story, and it doesn't deliver enough of Five Nights at Freddy's. At number 23 is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. The thing about Dial of Destiny is that I just can't remember it. I literally cannot remember it. It is so forgettable. That's the main thing I can say about it off the top of my head. It's forgettable. Me not being able to remember it is likely a testament to the quality of the film. It has very many issues. It has many issues. It's not terrible, but it is just so forgettable. Overall, not very good. At number 22 is the Super Mario Bros. Movie. This is a mixed bag for me. The animation is amazing, the voice acting is really good, and overall it's just trying to have fun and entertain you, and is a really, really, really not terrible movie. But the story is so paper thin. Whenever it tries to be funny, it fails, and overall it is just a not good movie. It beyond works as a gift to fans, and it is a really, really, really not bad movie. There's nothing offensively wrong about it. It's just not good either, in my opinion. At number 21 is Transformers: Rise of the Beast. This was a pleasant surprise for me because it's actually not bad. You can actually see what's going on in the action this time around. The visual effects continues to be impressive. The runtime is really good for a Transformers movie. And overall, it is just pretty fun. It's not good by any means, but it is infinitely better than the Michael Bay ones. At number 20 is The Flash. Pretty mediocre, in my opinion. Some of it is kind of entertaining. It's not terrible by any means. I do feel like it should have, I don't think it feels quite as epic as it kind of needed to. And overall, it's not great, but it's definitely not the worst superhero movie this year at all. And again, it's not bad. At number 19 is Strays. Unfortunately, Strays does have the issue that really hurts and plagues R-rated comedies like this, in my opinion. It's too focused on the crude humor and not focused enough on actual funny and clever humor that doesn't revolve around swearing and sex jokes. This concept is funny for about 3 seconds before you actually have to start doing funny and clever things with it that don't revolve around crude humor. And Strays doesn't have enough non-crude humor to be a good comedy, in my opinion. There is good stuff here. Unfortunately, it's just not a good movie in my opinion, but I still had a lot of fun with it. At number 18 is The Hunger Games: A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, a prequel I went into feeling like I didn't need, and I went out of feeling like I didn't need. It's not bad. There is good stuff here. The cast is good. The actual Hunger Games stuff is well done, and overall, it has strong elements, but it just feels so distractingly unnecessary, and as a result, I think it's just kind of a less enjoyable movie. And I also think it really just kind of has some pacing issues once you get past the actual Hunger Games part in the film, and overall just a pretty uninteresting and really unnecessary film in my opinion. At number 17 is Blue Beetle, a film that isn't bad, but is kind of hurt by the whole superhero fatigue thing, and I was just uninterested throughout because of it. Like, it isn't a bad film and is better than most of the other superhero movies that came out this year, but I just don't have that much to say about it because of the fact that it is just more superhero stuff in a time where there is too much superhero stuff, and I was bored as a result, and I wasn't I didn't enjoy it like as much as I think I should have, because overall it's not bad. Fast X is another round of Fast and Furious fun that keeps the over the top at the right level in my opinion. The level of over the top in this film is perfect for the franchise, and overall it is just more fun. As I said, the thing about this one is that this franchise, it cannot be stale for me. I mean, I get the fact that it already is for other people, but for me it will never ever get stale. Seriously, it seriously never will. With this one, I will say it feels borderline stale. It feels overly familiar, and I think it is just marginally less enjoyable because of that. And additionally, I just think that all of the story stuff and the stuff that isn't the action is so uninteresting and forgettable to the point where it hurts the film. Still more fun. Speaking of fun, Cocaine Bear. Now, I get why people were underwhelmed by this, and I get it. I agree. There should have been more of Cocaine Bear. However, for what it is, it's still pretty fun in my opinion. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I would lower it to a 6 out of 10. I watched it again when I was on a plane, and I think I liked it even more than I did the first time, despite me lowering the score. 90 minutes is just the perfect runtime for the film, and it can be so chaotic at times with its tone, its performances, and its characters, and it is really appropriate for the film, and I think it just makes it more fun. It's not one of the most fun films of the year. It's not an absolute blast in my opinion, and again, I get why people were underwhelmed by it, but it's still pretty fun. Another raunchy comedy, No Hard Feelings. I thought this was a fine film that does more with its premise than you would expect, which I think kind of works for the movie and also kind of hurts the film a bit. It's nice to see some kind of substance, if you want to call it that, in a raunchy comedy, but at the same time, I don't really think there's enough of the R-rated comedy stuff, and there is definitely a focus on the kind of like drama stuff and the character stuff and the kind of emotional stuff, which is a bit weird, and it does result in a film that does feel a bit messy and kind of feels a bit unsure of what it wants to do at times. And overall, it's fine. The best way I can describe Ferrari is it's pretty good. I wish the film was more compelling and riveting than it was. I do think the highlights of it are the racing sequences, despite the fact that they are fairly infrequent. But yeah, it's a fine biopic. I do wish it made a bit more of an impact on me personally, and I wish I had more to say about it. But overall, I liked it. Now, here's the thing with Barbie. Half of this film is the most fun I've ever had watching a film ever, and the other half is rough. Like, I think it just, I say it gets too political. I think that it tries to do a bit too much with its political messaging and all that stuff, and it just kind of, it does feel a bit messy, and I feel like it all should have been handled a bit better. Still very well made and very enjoyable. And number 11 is A Haunting in Venice, an enjoyable film. Not amazing or spectacular by any means, but enjoyable. Kenneth Branagh continues to be great as Hercule Poirot. I really like how this one adds spooky elements into the mix, and the pacing and runtime are better this time around. Out of all of the Kenneth Branagh Hercule Poirot movies, this is the one where it most feels like a good old-fashioned murder mystery film to just watch and enjoy, in my opinion. And there's nothing that sticks out as inherently wrong here to me, so I enjoyed it. Into the top 10 we have Gran Turismo, definitely the biggest surprise this year for me. I went into this film with no expectations whatsoever, but I definitely wasn't expecting it to be great, and well, it was pretty great. It's definitely cliched and unoriginal in quite a few ways, but I'd say it actually works in the film's favour quite a bit. It does feel like a nice, classic, good, old-fashioned underdog story in a few ways, and it also has a few things to make it stick out just enough, and I was much more invested in the emotional and dramatic side of things than I expected, and the racing sequences are well done, so overall, I really enjoyed this movie. At number 9, we have Megan, a fun and enjoyable horror comedy. There's some really good stuff here. There's some nice kind of commentary in the film, like about kids' attachments to screens and the effect it has on them, as I said in my quick review. Megan herself is great. I wish the movie had a bit more carnage, and again, as I said in my quick review, I think it would have benefited from an R rating maybe. But overall, it is really fun. Needless to say, it's not scary whatsoever, but overall, it's just a fun, enjoyable horror comedy with some legitimately good things. Overall, I did have a really good time with it. At number 8, we have Evil Dead Rise, another good entry in a very consistent franchise. franchise. Really like the new ideas here with it focusing on a family and the setting being an apartment, which adds a nice sense of claustrophobia to everything. It's well made, there's some nice cinematography and the effects and makeup are really good. Overall, just another good film inside of the Evil Dead franchise. Obviously, these new Evil Dead films take themselves more seriously than the original trilogy, so they are very different, but yet another solid film in the Evil Dead franchise. At number 7, we have Scream 6, another film which is a great addition to a consistently great franchise. Going into this, I was expecting hopefully another good Scream movie, but one that wouldn't stand out from the rest of the franchise, but it did do enough with the formula and put enough spins on the formula to stand out just enough. Something they did with the killers, the opening scene, the increase in brutality, which resulted in not only some good kills, but that was also another thing that made the series stand out, made this film stand out just enough, with it being the goriest in the series. And with the meta commentary, it did feel like, the meta commentary specifically, it did feel a bit like Fast X, not stale, but with this film, it did fit with the meta commentary, again, meta commentary specifically, it did feel like something that they put in there because they kind of had to, because it's a Scream movie. And overall, with this film, it did kind of feel like the Fast X of the Scream franchise, but on a level that was nowhere near as bad as I was not expecting, but kind of worried it would be. And I really enjoyed it overall. And with it being set in NYC, it somehow manages to make it feel claustrophobic because Ghostface just attacks in like every location, and it results, in my opinion, probably the scariest Scream film since the original. None of the Scream sequels are actually scary, but this film, need to say, this film isn't scary, but probably the scariest of the sequels. So I really enjoyed it. At number 6 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, a great end to the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Has all of the fun and the charm and just the energy of the series, the energy of the series, which has made the series so popular. And it works as a finale, and it's really enjoyable and really fun, and I don't have that much to say about it, honestly. It is a fitting end, and it's my favourite of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. At number 5, we have Oppenheimer, a really well-made film. It looks great soundtrack, great sound design, great acting, great directing. I want to try and explain what I love so much about this film. I'll try to be quick about this. This is obviously a huge, epic 3-hour biopic blockbuster, but traditional spectacle is kept to a minimum, obviously. And this movie's big epic moments, in my opinion, really come with the acting and just obviously the characters talking and the character stuff. And I think like in particular with like for example the ending and the shot of Cillian Murphy and all that stuff throughout the film, it's all spectacle, more thrilling, that I found more thrilling than most of the big budget CGI blockbuster films that came out this year. It's really great. I'm not saying Oppenheimer's low budget, but just all of the big CGI blockbuster films that came out this year. And I think it's such a thrilling film, and it manages to be so thrilling through being so kind of like just through like minimal stuff, like being kind of minimalist. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it. Anyways, Oppenheimer is a great film. At number 4 is Godzilla Minus One. Not just a great Godzilla movie with the destruction, the action, the visuals. What they are able to achieve with a $50 million budget is really impressive, but it is just a great movie. The character stuff is great. There are great themes explored here. The story is great and everything, and just the emotional things and just like the emotional drama is really great, and the human drama is just surprisingly really great. And for a Godzilla movie, it is really fantastic, and it is a really great film. Obviously deserves to be in the top 5 this year. At number 3, Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. Similarly to Godzilla Minus One, it works as a Spider-Man movie, and it also really works as a movie. Visually, it is absolutely mind-blowing, and the way they like tell a story through the visuals at points is really great, and it just continues the amazing visual stuff from the first Spider-Verse movie. But it does feel so human for a movie called Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. It feels so human. The characters are great, and all of the kind of just like the writing is great, and all of that stuff. It's a really great film, as well as a really great Spider-Man film. And again, it's visually just completely mind-blowing. Runner-up is John Wick Chapter 4. The action genre is my personal favorite movie genre, and this is the exact type of movie that reminds me why. It is almost 3 hours and it absolutely flies by. The action is simply phenomenal. Keanu Reeves continues to be really good as John Wick, and this is just like it's just the best elements of the John Wick franchise really kind of turned up to 11, and it is such an entertaining, thrilling, and just mind-blowing movie. Honestly, I really love John Wick Chapter 4. My favorite film of 2023 is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I know that I said in my review I couldn't decide between a 9 and a 9.5 out of 10, so I gave it a 9.25 out of 10. I would give this a 9 out of 10. It's definitely on the higher end of the 9 out of 10 spectrum. It is, like John Wick Chapter 4, a really thrilling film. It is relentlessly thrilling, exciting, and just a really enjoyable film, and it does remind you why you go to cinemas to see big budget blockbusters like this. And the stunts, as usual, really impressive for obviously the Mission Impossible movies. As usual, they're extremely impressive. Tom Cruise is great, and by this point in the franchise, it does really know what it's doing. Like they really know what they're doing at this point in the franchise, and this movie just completely proves that. I love this movie. Thank you very much for watching this ranking video. I know I kept my thoughts really brief at times. In the description, I will have links to all of the quick reviews and reviews for these movies that I've done. And, you know, if you want to hear my full thoughts, you can hear them there. But yeah, thank you very much for watching this ranking video. If you did enjoy, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you want to. And as I said at the beginning, feel free to, just comment whatever you want about, like, your opinions on movies this year. Maybe your 2023 list if you want to do that. All that stuff. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, bye bye.